Hello students, welcome back to Shore of Sis classes. This is our website www.shoreofsisclasses.com and you can WhatsApp us or contact us on this number. So today we will be doing physical geology and the topic is sediment transport and deposition. So in the sediment transport and deposition we will be discussing about some definitions. So let's get started. So first one is suspended load. So suspended load. Okay, let me change the pen color as it is really dark for this page. Okay. So the first point is suspension load. What is suspended load? Particles that are carried along with the water, in the main part of the stream that are suspended load with. Okay, let me use the eraser. So here the with stream is suspended load. So here is the definition. Now the size of those particles, that are carried along with the water stream, their size depends on their density. So on the density and the velocity of the stream So depending upon the density and velocity of the water stream. Now high velocity currents in the stream, carry large and denser particles So this was a short note on the suspended load. That I'm just recapitulating it again, that particles that are carried with the water stream and the particles that are their size depends upon the density of the stream and the velocity of the stream, and the high velocity current that carries large and dense particle. So this is, you have to remember that it carries large and dense particle. So this was all about the suspended load. So next definition is about bed load. So what happens in bed load? The denser particle, which are the denser, or you can say coarser particle, these particles when move with the stream, they move by the saltation. Now what is saltation? It's actually jumping. So jumping of those denser particles, as a result there is a collision between particles. So when the denser particles are moving or jumping together, then there is a collision. So I'm just writing it like collision of particles, and as the result there is a turbulent flow. Note that one thing, the sediment that can move between bed load and suspended load. So the sediment that move between the bed load and the suspended load as the velocity of the stream changes. So stream velocity that is changing. So the stream velocity changes. So there is a point, so let me repeat it once again, that the bed load is what that denser the particles with the stream that causes jumping with the stream along with the stream when the stream is flowing, and there is a collision between those dense particles or the coarser particles result in turbulent flow of the stream, and the sediment that move between the bed load and the suspended load. I already told you about the suspended load, that the particles that carried along with the water in the main part of the stream, that are suspended load. Okay, so this was all about the bed load. Now the last one is dissolved load. So this is dissolved load. So ions that are dissolved in the water, ions dissolved in the water by chemical weathering. So I told you in the chemical weathering video that the ions are dissolved in water and minerals. So then what happens, this load is invisible as the ion dissolving water, but the dissolved load consists mainly of bicarbonate ion. The dissolved load mainly consists of bicarbonate ion, that is ACO3 2 minus. So here it also consists of calcium ions, that is Ca2 plus, SO4 2 minus, chloride, sodium, magnesium and potassium. So these are the ions that dissolve in the water. These are the mainly dissolved loads. These ions are eventually carried to the ocean. So these are carried to the ocean and gives their properties to the water, so causes salty character. So this causes salty character. Streams that have a deeper underground source generally have higher dissolved load. So higher, I should write it like a bullet. So here let me erase it too. Okay, so the higher dissolved bullets, so the higher dissolved load, or the ions, here load means the ions. Okay, so the higher loads or higher the ions that dissolved, those whose source is on Earth's surface, that is mainly when there is a deep underground source. Deep underground. Okay. Deep underground. When the source is deep underground, then we can see the higher dissolved ions and the higher dissolved load, that is the dissolved load. That is, this is all about the dissolved load. So let me recapitulate it again. The dissolved load mainly consists of ions, the ions that are dissolved in the water body. Now this, let me change the pen color. Okay, so here the most popular ions that are mainly dissolved in the water body, that are bicarbonate ion, calcium ion, sulfate, chloride, sodium, magnesium and potassium. When these are dissolved in the water body, that is carried to the ocean, causes saltation of the water. And then I can say one thing, that in this bullet point I have already written the higher dissolved load or the ions. That is mainly what this bullet implies, that when the source is deep underground, then there is, we can see that the dissolved ions, the proportion of dissolved ion is higher. So this was all about the dissolved load. Now another thing that is about the sediment transport and deposition. When the maximum size of particles that can be carried as suspended, as suspension, I can say suspension load by the stream, obviously. So the maximum size of the suspension load or the particles that is carried by the stream is stream competence. This is called stream competence. Now the maximum load carried by the stream is called the maximum load, that was the maximum size. Okay, this was about the maximum size. Now again I am talking about the maximum load. This is about maximum load. So the maximum load of the particle that is carried by the stream is called stream capacity. It is called stream capacity. Now this both competence and the capacity increases. The capacity and the competence that increases with the increased discharge. So it is with when the discharge is increasing. And after that there is another thing, that is when discharge is high, then the big particles like boulders, cobbles, they can move, and because the discharge flow is high, so they are capable to move those big particles. But it's another point. So but when the discharge is low, when it's low, okay, this was when it was high. When discharge is low, then what happens, the mud like or the sleet like structure, small particles can only move, move. So now when flow velocity decreases, so the flow velocity when decreases, then what happens? The competence is reduced. Competence is less or reduced. So the flow velocity is when decreasing, the competence is also decreasing, and the sediment drop out, and that may lead to the sediment dropout. Okay, so now when the velocity flow decreasing, competence is also decreasing, the sediment flow that is drop out, the sediment grain size are sorted by the water. The sediment grain size or the rock size sorted by the water, and sands are removed from the gravels. That sands are removed and muds from both. So the sediment grain size sorted by the water, sands are removed, gravel settle in channels, and gravels settle in channels. Sands, then what happens? The sands that drop out, that sands, already told you that drop out in near channel. So sand drop out in near channel environment. Sleets and clay drape floodplains away from the channels. So sleet and clay, or we can say mud, that drape floodplains away from channel. And let me tell you one thing, this channel, I'm using this channel word in in a frequent way. So what is channel actually? When streams are, there is a stream, water body that is flowing, then the way that, so the stream is moving and they are making their own way along with the particles, and this is called channel. So thank you for watching this video, and if you have any query, then you can comment us below the section. Thank you for watching.